Hello everyone, welcome to video number 5. This video is about grid. If you have watched the previous video, you have probably learned the basics of grid. So this video will teach you some more concepts on grid. So let's get started. So there are a few things that we will discuss at the beginning. So first we have geometry, weight, and then column configure. So first let's talk about the root dot geometry. So first I'm going to create a file where I'm going to write my code. So I'm using Replit. I'm going to click on create REPL. And since I'm using Tkinter, so I'm going to write tk. And then you can see that there is a dedicated template for Tkinter. So I'm going to choose that and click the button create REPL. And you will see that it's loading of the file, and it comes with some default code. I'll just click on run just to make sure it works correctly. It may take a few seconds to load the file. You can see it's loading. So while it loads, let's discuss the root.geometry. So if you notice in the previous video, we didn't have a fixed window size. The size is kind of getting adjusted automatically based on the number of widgets you have on that window. But if we want, you can have a fixed size, which can be defined using the root.geometry. And then you can have a size like 600 by 300 or whatever size that you want. So if you write 600 by 300, so first of all, it means that it defines the dimensions, width and height, and the placement of the window on the screen. We'll talk about the placement part later on, but let's just focus on the width and the height. So the values for the geometry property are often specified in pixels. So if we write like 600 by 300, again, this has to be written as a string. So 600 is the width, and 300 pixels is your height. So the first value is your width and the second value is your height. So let's look at an example. So if you notice here, it comes with the default code. So let's forget about everything else and just focus on the window.geometry part. Here you will notice that the size is 300 by 300. So that means 300 is the width and 300 is the height. So this is your width, this is your height. So let's forget about everything else. I'm gonna just delete all the stuff from here. Instead of window, I'm gonna use root. That's what I have been using. So change it to root. Root. So instead of using 300 by 300, I'm gonna use 600 by 300. Then let's see the difference. So again, 600 is your width. So if I click on run, you will see the difference here. I'm gonna just adjust this a little bit so you can see this better. I will run this again. So I think because of the size, let me track this a little bit. See if I can see this. You can see it's kind of cut off a little bit. I think because of Replit. But the size is 600 by 300. As you can see, the width is obviously more, and this is the height, 300. Okay, so that's about the root geometry. So you can have a fixed size. If you don't define the fixed size, if I don't have this, Tkinter will auto adjust the size for you. So if I click on run, it will pick something on its own. So you can see it here. Okay, so that's about the root.geometry. Let's keep it enabled for now. So next topic is column configure. So in Tkinter, the column configure is a method that allows you to control the behavior of columns in a grid-based geometry manager. It is used to set options for a specific column in the grid. So probably this may sound a little confusing. So let's look at an example, which will make more sense. So in order to look at an example, I'm going to create 4 labels. Okay, as you can see here, I have column 0, column 1, column 2, column 3. So let's first create these four, and then we'll discuss how the column configure works. So on my window, I'm gonna create, so there are four labels. So instead of calling them column, I can actually call them label. I think that will be better. So I'm gonna call this label 0 equal to tk dot label root text equal to label 0. And then let's choose a background color. So I will use, for example, let's say light green. And we're going to use the grid geometry manager. So I'm going to say label 0 dot grid. And the position of this is row number 0, column number 0. So let's run this again. And where did it go? Let's see if something is wrong. tk dot label. Yeah, that looks right. Not sure why it's not showing. Let's see. Okay, so we have the label and we have the grid. Let's see if that is doing something with it. Oh, there you go. Okay, so it looks like something is wrong with the geometry. So probably I'm using Replit. That's why it's happening. So for now, I will just keep it disabled. The concept about geometry is about the size. So probably what's happening in Replit, if you use another IDE, probably your geometry will work correctly. So I will keep it disabled for now, and then we can use that later on. Okay, so once we have our label 0, I'm gonna copy and paste this a total of 3 times. So let's do that. Since I have 4 labels, I'm gonna call this label 1, label 1, label 2, label 2, and this is going to be my label 3. And then I'm gonna change this to label 1, label 2, and label 3. I'll change the colors. Let's say light blue, and let's say light coral, and this one, let's say white, for example. Okay, so the row will be same for all the labels, just the column is going to change. So this is going to be, let's say, column 1. This is going to be column 2, and this is going to be column 3. Okay, so now let's run this and see what happens. So you can see it auto adjusts the window, but you can see there is a background which shows black. I think that's coming from the 600 by 300. So I think it kind of messed up, but as long as we see our window is working, that's fine for now. So we'll use that for now. As you can see, if I maximize it, I see all my 4 labels showing up. Okay, so that's our first goal, to make sure all my labels are showing up correctly. But notice here the way I have these, so they have some space in between them and it looks better. So how do I change that? So here comes the column configure. So in the column configure, we will have an index number, and then we'll have an option. So the index number is about your column. So when you say index number 0, basically you are looking at column number 0. If you say index number 1, you're looking at column 1, and so on. And the option that we're going to use is called a weight. So what is this weight option? So this option specifies a relative weight for the column. So columns with higher weights expand more when the parent widget is resized. So for example, if you have two columns, one with a weight of 1, another with a weight of 2, the second column will expand twice as much as the first when the window is resized. So weight is fixing the size so that when you have multiple columns and if you want to expand them, it will help you to maintain the size. So if weight is set as 1, another has a weight of 2, as mentioned, your weight 2 will expand across 2 columns properly. Okay, so that's why we use the weight. But for now, I am going to set the weight as 1. Okay, so you can see here it says set all the columns weights to 1 using the Columnconfigure method. So let's set that and see if it shows this correctly. So after I'm done with all of them, I can show you the first one. So root dot column configure. And as I said, the index number is your column. So if you say 0, it's looking at column number 0, and weight is going to be 1. So if I run this, let's see what happens first. So now at the beginning, you will not see this correctly because remember the window will resize automatically. So if I maximize it, now you'll see something is happening, right? So since the weight is 1, so label 1 is looking different compared to label 1, label 2, label 3, because they don't have a weight. So instead of doing this way, we can actually run a loop so that we don't have to write this 1, weight 1, 2, weight 2, and so on. So we can do a for loop. So I think you guys are familiar with for loop. So I'm going to say for I in range. And since there are 4 columns, I'm going to go up to 4. Remember, 4 means it will go from 0 to 3. And instead of 0, I'm going to use I. So it will go over all the 4 columns that we have. So let's click on run and see what happens. And if I expand it, now you will see it looks like this. So we have all the 4 labels, just like the way we wanted. Okay, so that part is done. So we set the weight as 1. So all of them will have the same size now. Okay. And as I said, we can use a loop to configure all the columns at the same time. So for I in range 4, we just had the index number with the I, and the weight is set as 1. Okay, so the next topic that we have, so we discussed about geometry, weight, and the column configure. The next thing that we want to discuss is Columnspan. So the Columnspan parameter in Tkinter's grid geometry manager allows a widget to span multiple columns in the grid. So remember when we defined the row and column, we set that it should start at column 0. This one should start at column 1, then column 2, and then column 3. And all the label, they have the same weight right now. But we want to expand them across 2 or 3 columns. Just like the way we have this here, you can see label 1 is expanded across multiple columns, the label 2 expanded to more, the label 3 is more. So probably this one is expanding across 2 columns, this is 3, this is 4, for example. Okay, so we want to do something similar here. So what we can do is first, as I said, this parameter is used when you want a widget like a label or button to occupy more than 1 column in the grid layout. So what we're going to do is first, let's set column span value as 1, 2, 3, 4 for the 4 labels respectively. So we're going to say label 1 grid, and the column span is going to be set as 1. Okay, then the next one will be 2, then 3, then 4. So let's see what happens if we do this. So starting with label 0, I'm gonna use the column span. Column span, this one is 1, so it will only expand across one column. The second one should expand across 2 columns. I'm gonna use 2. The next one will expand across 3, and the last one will expand across 4. Okay, now let's see what happens if we run the code. So as I said, it will automatically resize this, and you have to maximize it since I did not use the root dot geometry because it's giving me some issues. But let's try again, see if it looks better now. Let's try it again. Okay, so now I think it got better. So now you can see that geometry is working, but notice how they look very different. So label 0 looks like it takes a lot of space, then label 1, then label 2, and label 3 kind of not working correctly. So what's wrong here? Okay, so let's try to understand what's wrong. So however, the changes in your GUI may look awkward after setting the column span. Why is that? So why this is happening? So we set to expand this correctly, and we do have the column span defined. 1, 2, 3, 4, but it looks like they're not working correctly. So let's look at the next slide and try to understand this. So the problem is the column values are not correct anymore. So for example, label 3 should start at column 3 since label 2 now takes 2 columns. So what I'm trying to say here, let's go back to the slide and try to understand this. I'm going to annotate here. So column 0. Let's say this is your column 0. And you said it should span across one column, so it should be only on this column. Okay. Then you said label 1 should start at column 1, but it should expand across 2 columns. That means the label 1, remember this is your column number 0. Let's say this is your column number 1, and this is your column number 2. So the label 1 should take 2 columns. Be careful again that column 0 is only this column. This is column number 1, and this is column number 2. Since your label 1 is expanding across 2 columns, the next one you can start at 2, because column 1 and column 2 are taken by your label 1. So label 1 has both column 1 and column 2. So that means the label 2 should start at column number 3, which is right here. So it should start at 3, which is why it got confused, and you can see it's not showing up correctly. So your label 2 must start at column number 3. Okay, now it starts at column number 3, which is good, but remember this time your column span is 3. So now the problem is it starts at 3, then it should go 4, then 5. So it will take all 3 columns, 3, 4, 5. So that means what should be the value of this column then? Because your label 2 is taking 3 columns, starting at 3. So it's taking 3, 4, 5. So that means they should start at 6. Okay, so it will go from 6 to 9. So it will go 6, 7, 8, 9. However, your setting of weight is only from column 0 to 3. But as you notice here, you should go up to 9. So I will paste it here, write a comment here. The weight should be 1 across all the 9 columns. So I have to change this. I'm gonna use 10. So remember, if you said 10, it will go from 0 to 9, and that's what we want because we started at column number 0 and then column number 1, but its expansion is 2. So I'm gonna write this here so you understand this correctly. So this is across one column, which is column number 0. And then we have label 1, which starts at column number 1, but it goes across 2 columns. So it takes 2 of them. So you have to keep track of this correctly. So I'll first draw this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Actually, I need one more. Let's do 9 here. Let's change the color. So label 0 is in the 0th column. Then the next one is across 2 columns. The next one is across 3. 1, 2, 3, up to 5. So it goes from 3 to 5. And the next one is going across 4 of them. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's what's happening with our column. So you have to go from 0 to 9 to cover all the columns. So I have to change this to range 10. So once we have this, let's run it and see what it does. So we set the weight so that the size is fixed, and then we use the Columnspan to properly expand them across multiple columns. So let's run this and see it here. So now if you look at here, we see some changes, but still it doesn't look right. Okay, so there is one more thing that we're gonna do now. Once these are fixed, we will see some improvements. So it doesn't look like the one we had before, which looks like this. Now it looks like this. So looks like column 0 is taking less space, column 1 taking more, column 2 more, column 3 more, but still not 100% fixed. What we want is this. So column 0 should be only 1 column, then 2 columns, then 3 columns, then 4 columns. This is what we want. So to do this, we're going to use another thing called sticky. Okay, so what is this? So the sticky parameter in Tkinter's grid geometry manager is used to control the placement and stretching behavior of a widget within its grid cell. It specifies where the widget should be placed in the cell and how it should expand to fill the available space. So let's try to understand this, what it means. So let's go to my code. So label 1. So let's say this is your label 1. Remember, this is your row number 0, and this is your column number 0. So your label 0 is here. But if you notice here, it doesn't take the entire cell. Okay, or we call them the grid cell. It doesn't take the entire space. It depends on how many characters you have. So usually it kind of centered here. Okay, so this is the position of it. You can see there is some empty space here, empty space here. Okay, so if we want to fill the empty space, we have to use the sticky option. Sticky has options like the sticky parameter accepts one or more of the following compass directions. If you can think of this, let me go to the slide, as a compass. So let's draw this. So when you have this grid, let's change the color. It works like a compass. So if you know how a compass works. So north, south, east, west. So as I said, your label 0 is centered in the middle. So here. Sticky will allow you to expand it. If you say, okay, I want the sticky to be west, that means your label will start from here and it will probably go up to here. It will not take the whole space. If you say, no, I don't want to start from west, I want to do east center, that means you're going to start from here and probably end up right here. But if you say, okay, no, I want to use east to west both. So in that case, it will take the entire cell from here to all the way here. You'll see it in a minute. So let's look at the example. So for your label 0, after Columnspan, I'm gonna say sticky equal to W. Again, sticky W means it will, let me delete all this. It will start here, okay? So if I click on run, you will see the difference. Oh, sorry, I put it in the wrong place. The sticky, oops, put a dot. There you go. Okay, so now you can see your label 0 is kind of starts at the beginning of your window. If I use east, you'll notice the difference. It's not gonna be left center, it will be right center because east is the right side. So if I click on run, you'll see your label 0 starts here, probably because this is the end of your column number 0. But if I use EW or WE, it will take the entire cell. So that's the proper expansion across the whole cell. So label 0 is taking one column. Okay, and you can see that it expands across the column since you said EW. You can use all 4, that means you're taking everything, so we can also use NS. I think probably it will not make a difference because I think it's already picked the north and south already filled up. That's why you're not seeing any difference. So again, you can use the sticky with E, W, and S, or all 4, or any 2, whatever you want. Okay, so sticky should be E, W, and S. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just copy this and go to the next one. And put it here. I forgot the comma. So now it will take, since you said column span 2, your sticky will take the entire 2 columns and fill up all the cell. So we'll try it. And as you can see here, label 0, label 1 is twice as much as label 0. Next one. So this should take 3 columns. So let's run it. And you can see it here, it takes 3. Label 4, I'm sorry, label 3 should take all the 4 columns. If I click on run, you can see it. Okay, so it looks like something is wrong with the Replit. I'll just reload this page. Sometimes Replit is kind of slow. So anyway, so that's the idea about the sticky. So now I think it makes sense that how it's working. So again, you can use W, E, or EW, or you can use all 4. If you want, you can also add some paddings in between the columns using pad X. So let's see if it loads correctly. I think it did not. Okay, so sticky is not written correctly, so now it should work. So now you can see here, so label 0 is taking only 1 column, label 2 is taking 2 columns, label 1 is taking 2, label 2 is taking 3, and label 3 is taking 4 columns. So you can see that they are expanding proportionally because the weight was set at 1. And as I said, if you want, you can also add some pad X, which you learned before. So if you decide that, okay, I want to have some paddings, I can set pad X as 10. So if you do this, label 0 on the right side and the left side, you'll have 10 pixel of space. So you can see both sides of label 0 will have 10 pixels of space. Another thing we can do this again, you can say, okay, I don't want to have a space on the right side, but I want to have the space on the left side. So what you can do is you can actually have two values here. So pad x, you can say 0, comma, 10. So that means you will still start at the beginning. There will be no pad x to the left side, but on the right side, you will have 10 pixels. So you can also customize that. So let's run this and you can see it here. So label 0 starts from the beginning of your window, but then it adds 10 pixels of space between label 0 and label 1. So you can also customize that. So now if you notice here, the grid has a lot of parameters going on here. So row, column span, then a sticky, and then pad x with 2 values. So that's all about today's videos. I hope this makes sense. So we discuss about sticky, we discuss about column span, and then geometry, weight, and column configure. So hopefully this makes sense. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching. Bye.